point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week. Welcome. This is our 302nd show, recorded on the 31st of January, 2019. And our news for today, for this show, is starting on January 24th, which is also a Thursday. These items that we have come from my blog, which is called geoharvey.com, geoharvey.com. If you're interested, you can go there and read the things that we mentioned. The articles are available in full. And
some of them are very well worth looking up.
Oh, yeah.
I'll try to mention some of the more interesting ones.
Yeah. Tom always does that. He keeps us honest. And the blog has a calendar, so we'll try to keep you apprised of the date that we're reading from, and you can go to click on that date on the calendar. I put up about 10 to 15 articles every day, so you'll probably have to scroll through up to 15 articles to find the one that you want, but we'll have it there. You all set to go, Tom?
I think so, yeah.
Our first article is from the National Resources.
We've got a picture here.
Yeah, we do. National Resources Defense Council. That picture is a little difficult to understand unless you're told what it is.
Well, we got to tell them what it is, but it's an interesting picture.
You got a title?
Landmark offshore wind agreement protects right whales. And you're going to tell us why they're called the right whales.
No, I'm not.
Because they were the right whales to catch.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well,
I didn't know
back
that.
in those days when they caught whales.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What you're seeing there is the old Tharshi blows. You're seeing the blow.
And there is a little whale next to the big whale, but it's hard to see.
Well, you can see that next to the right of the
big whale, the blowing whale.
The blowing whale. You can see a disturbance in the sea there, which is from the tail of the little calf. Little calf. It's a little bigger than I am.
It's about 2/3 of the size of the mom.
Yeah. I actually saw 2 humpback whales and a calf, 3 whales together, in Cape Cod Bay once.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, just over Christmas, I visited my sister down in Florida.
Yeah.
And she lives about a block from the ocean.
Yeah.
So I walked up that block, and it's on a bluff.
Uh-huh.
So the beach is down below, and then you could see out into the ocean. And while I was there was several whales blowing.
Oh, really?
And so you could see them, they must have been feeding there.
Yeah.
Because it was more than one whale.
Yeah.
And, they would blow, and you would see them, their tail flipping and stuff like that.
Wow.
So they were maybe a quarter of a mile away.
Yeah.
And they were there all afternoon. I mean, they were there for a while.
Wow. I should read this. Under the unprecedented agreement with 3 environmental groups, under an unprecedented agreement, Vineyard Wind is to protect the highly endangered North Atlantic right whale during construction and operation of an offshore wind farm it will build 14 miles south of Martha's Vineyard. And what they're worried about, of course, is the noise.
This is a very interesting article.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this article. The agreement that they're talking about demonstrates that we can move forward with dual goals. We can grow clean offshore wind power while protecting the endangered right whale.
Yes.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Sure it does. Yeah.
Vineyard Wind will be the first commercial scale offshore wind facility in the United States.
I don't know. The Block Island wind farm is 30 megawatts, and as far as I'm concerned, 30 megawatts is a little bigger than what you'd have at home.
Well, okay, so we're
I know that's
we're
what they
playing
said.
With words
we
here.
are. I know that's what we said. Okay, should we
Let's
go
move
on?
along here, yeah.
Our next item is from Clean Technica, and this is still January 24th.
The world's greenest companies are consistently outperforming their non-green peers. That is just an interesting speculation.
The greenest and most sustainable companies in the world were highlighted in two reports with a common thread. It showed the consistently superior economic performance of companies committed to addressing climate change and environmental issues. And you know, this didn't surprise me in the slightest because I was aware of the work that Ceres, C-E-R-E-S, was doing in Boston. Ceres is in Boston. They were doing the work all over all over the world, but certainly all over the country.
They came to the same conclusions.
Years ago. They would go into the boardroom of a company and say, we can show you that if you operate in a sustainable manner, your profits will go up.
Sounds like a good plan to me. Well, in case you want to know who some of these companies are.
Good idea.
Some of the biggest ones: Apple, Ford, Johnson & Johnson, Microsoft, Nestle, and Sony.
Yeah.
So, you know, these are big guys.
Yeah.
Okay, moving along, we've got another picture coming up.
And we also have an article that is from Clean Technica again.
And the name of that picture is Renewables. And as you can see, there's
more than one
both
kind.
Wind and solar in the same place.
Yeah, you're looking at the back of the solar array.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
So what do you have for a title, Tom?
An all-renewable grid is economically superior to mixed generation.
Now this I thought was fascinating. One of the arguments that those forces opposed to dealing with climate change make is that
who are they?
who are they? People who happen to have pockets that are lined with money.
We'll touch base with that before the show's over.
Yes, I'm sure. Dealing with climate is that transitioning the grid entirely to renewables and away from fossil fuels would be economically devastating. It would not, and it is worth examining the reasons why.
Well, this is a meaty, in-depth article. There's a lot of grass. If you're like grass, look it up because you learn a lot from it.
You learn a lot, and one of the things they're comparing here is a grid that is all renewable, which means renewables plus batteries, and it's any kind of renewable, which includes hydropower and geothermal, if that's what's needed, but also biodigesters and solar and wind and so forth. A grid that's made up of all renewables is superior to a grid that is mixed so that it's partly coal, partly nuclear, partly gas, partly
well, the reason for that is typically the negative externalities of fossil fuel generation and transportation are forgotten. They don't mention them.
They want you not to remember that.
Yeah.
They want you not to remember that you're being poisoned.
You're paying for it.
You're paying for it, and you're being poisoned.
Yeah.
But there's another thing here, too, and I mention this to people, and they kind of stare at me blankly. It is possible to run a grid entirely with renewable power and batteries. This is manifestly true. It's been done over and over and over and over again.
Well, if you got batteries, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, the wind doesn't always blow and the sun doesn't always shine, but the batteries are always sitting there waiting to be used.
Okay. Now let me ask you a question, Tom. You're an electrical engineer, and you should be able to tell me the answer to this.
I hope so.
Is it possible to run a grid with just baseload power plants? Nothing else?
Probably not. Probably
not.
Baseload power plants do have to come down from time to time.
Well, not only that.
Sometimes they shut down when you don't want them to.
They're inflexible.
Absolutely.
So, you know, if you have nothing but baseload power, you have an amount of power and it can't be made to match demand.
No, you got to hope demand matches your output.
That's right. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? You're going to get 1,000 megawatts, and that's it.
Like it or not.
Like it or not. You cannot run a grid on just nuclear and coal, or nuclear, coal, and combined cycle natural gas.
Well, the needs of the grid are changing constantly.
Yeah.
And nuclear is not.
Yeah.
You know, it just runs.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't upgrade it by 10% or downgrade it by 10%. It's either it's on or it's off.
That's exactly the point. You can, however, operate a grid by overbuilding. And in fact, we had an article, I think it was 2 weeks ago, where a person was saying we could actually run a grid without the batteries, with just solar and wind, by overbuilding.
Yeah, we talked about that.
This business of the sun doesn't always shine, the wind doesn't always blow is disingenuous nonsense, except that it's very easy to believe.
Well, we got people here who want you to believe it.
Yeah, it's intuitively obvious that the sun doesn't always show, the wind doesn't always blow, and so you have to rely on baseload power. Intuitively obvious. It was intuitively obvious to Isabella that the world was flat. So, okay.
I think that's subject to debate too.
The mathematicians and so forth of that time knew that the world was round. They knew it was round in ancient Greece. Okay, Claudius Ptolemaeus knew that the world was round. Not only that, but he knew how big it was.
Did he really?
Yeah. Because they could do measurements of the
moon, the shadow on the moon or something.
No, it was what is it? The altitude above the horizon of the sun at noon.
Okay.
You know,
which changes.
And if you go farther south, it's farther up, and you know how far you go north or south. You can tell what the distance is. The ancient Greeks knew the size of the Earth.
Yeah.
And because
there was no, these guys knew what was going on.
There was one guy, I forget which one it was, because he knew the size of the Earth from the size of the shadow in the lunar eclipse, he could tell the size of the moon.
Okay.
And based on that, he knew the distance from the Earth to the moon, and he was, a couple of percent off, but he was pretty good. And then he surmised the distance from the Earth to the sun, and I forget how that was done, but it was, it was all basic mathematics. Another way you could figure out the distance from the Earth to the moon is to time a lunar eclipse. Say, a solar eclipse. Say this is how long it took, so we know that the moon is traveling at this rate across the sky. Well, anyway, we should go on.
Let's move on.
Yes, we are up to Friday, January 25th, with an item from CNN.
Cigarette filters are the #1 plastic pollutant and don't prevent cancer.
This sounds like a lose-lose situation.
I think so.
Plastic straws and bags have received widespread attention as pollutants, but another even bigger is plastic problem that has been slipping under the radar: cigarette filters. Cigarette butts containing plastic fibers are the most littered item in the world.
You don't think of cigarette filters being plastic, but they mostly are. They're cellulose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were some
pictures in this article that were very disgusting. What's in the drain and stuff like that.
Yeah, there was a bird that was about to eat a filter.
It looked like he was smoking.
It did. I saw once upon a time, many years ago, I was in an area where people would throw bread to ducks.
Yeah.
And a piece of bread had fallen on top of some cigarette butts. And it was clear the duck knew that the bread was there, and it found the cigarette butts so disgusting that it was trying to figure out how to get the bread without touching the cigarette butts. But the seagull in this particular article looked like it was smoking. Okay.
It was a good video. CNN often has good videos.
Right.
There's a good video here. It's about 3 minutes. How the world's biggest brands plan to end garbage. Interesting video. Interesting video.
Yeah. Okay, should we go on?
Well, it's a quick rundown. It takes up to a decade to decompose a cigarette filter.
That's assuming that it's in the sunshine.
Yeah.
If it's buried, it takes longer than that.
Well, let's move along.
Okay,
we got another picture coming up here.
That picture, guess where that is?
Park City, Utah.
How do you know that?
Because I looked it up on a...
Well, I was going to say, I think that's in Utah, Tom. See how smart I am?
Park City, Utah. Ski resorts turn to renewable energy to cut carbon emissions and costs.
This is happening right here in Vermont. This article is, by the way, from Axios, AXIOS. The ski industry is increasingly embracing new innovations. What is an old innovation? I guess it's an invention that happened in yesteryear.
Last week.
Yeah. In energy efficiency technology combined with existing technologies such as wind and solar energy and LED lighting to reduce its carbon footprint and improve its bottom line.
Well, Brownlee has installed low-energy snowmaking guns, and probably some of the other areas.
The numbers from these in this article about the snowmaking guns, I read that and I said, how is that even possible? They were talking about 99% reduction in energy use.
Well, it's a very different system. They're only running water up to these guns. Where in the old days they ran water and air.
Oh.
And they were way up high, and these guns are down on the ground, and it's a big improvement.
Well,
but the other areas are using these same guns too because they're saving money.
Yeah, yeah.
Now they mentioned Bromley in this article. They also mentioned Berkshire East in Massachusetts.
Yes.
It's the only ski area in the world, according to this article, to generate 100% of its electricity on site.
Okay.
And I've been there, and I've seen
the wind turbine.
Well, I got a tour around by the guy who's in charge of it.
Yeah.
They had wind turbines. They got solar, and they're generating 100% of their electricity.
Well,
Jiminy Peak is also.
Yes.
They're not producing all they need. They're producing about a third of it, but it's a natural.
Yeah.
They use a lot of electricity. They have a lot of land.
Yeah.
And it would seem that just with a little bit of forethought, they got a ridge, so they put a couple windmills up on the ridge.
Yeah.
They got a bunch of trails, so they put solar along the edges of the trails.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer.
Okay. Our next item is from Clean Technica.
Well, this one's an interesting one, too.
It is.
Coal ash standoff could make coal power plants hit the kill switch. This is another forgotten cost. What do you do with the coal ash?
Right.
You're burning coal, you got all these ashes, and it just sits there in a swamp somewhere.
And every once in a while, something in the ash gets loose, and it'll go down a river and destroy everything in sight.
Like a dam will burst or something.
A dam will burst.
As a matter of fact, there's a picture here in this article of coal ash in a river, and it's rather disgusting.
It is. Another thing that happens is that the coal ash is mixed with water. It's in lagoons. The water gets into the ground as part of the water table and winds up poisoning the local wells.
Absolutely.
And once that happens,
mention that here too.
There isn't any way you can recover from that. The local wells is bad. Under Trump,
there's a takeaway here.
Yeah, let me read it.
Yeah.
Under Trump, U.S. coal power plants have dropped like flies. This is Trump's war on coal. Now it looks like those left standing could all wink out at the same time. A group of coal power stakeholders has threatened to turn off the lights due to a regulatory clash over the storage of coal ash.
Well, it's a real cost. They're saving this coal ash because it's cheaper to save it than it is to do something about it.
Yeah.
And now they're faced with the fact that they better do something about it.
Yeah.
I got a takeaway here. With new rules, operators face the untenable choice of either ceasing power production or continuing to place waste streams in units that the UPA says are required to immediately close. They're faced with a dilemma here.
Yeah, well, they're between the devil and the deep blue sea.
Yeah, absolutely. And this article ends up with, there is no such thing as clean coal.
Well,
we've talked
about that in the past. We are up to Saturday, January 26th.
Yeah, we got a picture here, too.
We do indeed, and we have an item from the MarylandReporter.com.
Yeah, that's making me hungry.
Yeah.
Maryland's sea level to increase dramatically, report says. Now, that's kind of scary.
It is. That picture is a picture of a crab
Looks like it.
crossing a road, which has turned into a...
Oh, is that what's going on?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a road.
Why does the crab cross the road? Because it could. You know. A report from the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science warns that if emissions continue to rise, which they are doing, sea level in Maryland would likely increase by 2 to 4.2 feet by 2100. There is also an outside chance that the rise could exceed 5.2 feet, the report said.
That hunk of Maryland that hangs out into the Atlantic Ocean there, where Delaware is,
Yep.
That's going to go away.
Well, that's the fear.
That's hardly more than 5 feet high.
That's the fear.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, huge areas of New Jersey and Delaware and Maryland.
Pennsylvania.
Well, Pennsylvania, absolutely. You know.
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island, yeah. You know, this is all in danger of being shut down, and we've talked about that many times.
Remember when there used to be a Cape Cod?
Yeah, well, that's one of those things. Vermont's, let's see, we are up to an item from Energy News Network, and it's about Vermont.
Vermont says charging stations shouldn't face the same rules as utilities. Well, they shouldn't really. I mean, they're not utilities.
They're not. Vermont's EV charging stations should not be regulated like electric utilities, state utility regulators concluded. The Vermont Public Utility Commission recommended that state law be clarified to allow charging station owners to set their own pricing. And, you know, this just shows you something about what happens with old laws, because the laws become obsolete because they're trying to regulate technology that is changing.
Yeah. And that's exactly what's happening here.
Yeah.
They say these guys are generating electricity, they're utilities.
Right.
And they're not.
Yeah, they're distributing electricity, they're utilities. Well, they are distributing electricity, but they're not really utilities.
Well, they'll work it out.
They will work it out, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we got another picture coming up.
This is an interesting picture. I examined that picture in some detail.
It's a Philippine church.
Yes, it
and
is.
when you click on the picture, you get a video of Trump, which says global warming. That wasn't TT working. That wasn't working. It's just a typo. Global warming. That wasn't working too well because it was getting too cold all over the place. That's what Trump is saying.
Well, you know,
it can't be global warming because it's cold out.
Well, we're going through a polar vortex right now, and we're going to be talking about that too. And Donald Trump is saying, what happened to global warming? What happens to global warming when you need it? Well, right now there are heat waves going on in other parts of the world.
Oh yeah, Australia, South Africa.
The information that I got was that the polar vortex was caused by a heat wave. But we can get to that later.
We will get to that. Yeah,
this
well,
is
we
a
got
Philippine
climate myths here, you know,
yeah.
and
this is a Philippine church, and in the background you can see other buildings, and they're all in a state of dilapidation. Basically, what's happened
is that
here,
church sitting in water?
It's sitting in water, and the water has gone up above the windowsills at some point. My bet is that church gets inundated with water on a twice daily basis with the tides.
Well,
okay.
What's the trouble with Trump is either he doesn't know the difference between climate and weather, or he doesn't want to know the difference between climate and weather.
Oh, he's got an IQ of 203. It's obvious
he's
that
the
he
smartest
doesn't.
man in the world. Ask him anytime. He'll tell you that.
Right. Okay. Let me read this. This was from CNN. Did you read the title of this?
Climate change. The more we know, the worse it seems.
Yeah. It should not be surprising that each new climate-related news headline seems to be worse than the last. The last time carbon dioxide levels were as high as they are now, sea levels were 30 meters higher. That, by the way, is 100 feet, 10 stories. So,
easily, yep.
Yeah. At that level, all major coastal cities in the world would be drowned.
At that level, sure.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And
what
unless
are we here, 350 feet here?
We're at about 350 feet, yeah. Yeah.
So Brandenburg would survive, but Springfield, Mass. wouldn't.
Yeah, Springfield, Mass. would not. That's right. And, you know, the changes that would bring about, just think about this, Tom. The Northfield, Massachusetts, as I recall, is at an altitude of about 200 feet. There's a bit of a rise between Northfield and Brattleboro. And if we had a 30-meter rise, Northfield would be at an altitude of about 100 feet. But Springfield, Massachusetts would be kind of hopeless. But just think about all of the transportation facilities, rail, roads, that go south from here. And at some point between here and Hartford, Connecticut, those facilities, those railroads and such what, would all stop working.
And they'd be underwater.
They'd be underwater. And we wouldn't be able to go to Boston unless we took a boat, because Boston would be underwater. So basically, if you just think about it, the fact that Brattleboro is above water doesn't really help all that much.
Not much, not at all.
Because we wouldn't have any place to get. We'd have to build new road infrastructure. We would, you know, but
there's a takeaway from the article that's kind of scary.
What's that?
Humans are now transferring 10 million tons of carbon from the Earth's crust in the form of combusted coal, oil, and gas into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Per year.
Per year. Yeah, 10 million tons. That's more than I can lift.
Well, this other one's a little bit more optimistic, I guess.
Okay.
At least for some.
Okay, we have an article from Clean Technica, and we're up to Sunday, January 27th.
Solar PV installer and wind turbine tech are the fastest growing occupations in the U.S. We've mentioned that here several times.
Well, I think this is a rewrite of an article that appeared a year ago, which was a rewrite of an article that appeared a year before that. It's something which has been going on for some time. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the fastest growing occupation in the United States is solar PV installer. And a projected growth rate of 105% from 2016 to 2026. 105% in that time. Do you think, Tom, that's 105% per year?
I think so.
I don't think so. 105% per year. It's going to double every year for 10 years.
Well, that's a lot. Yeah,
that's a lot of growth. But then, you know, I'll read the rest and then I'll make the comment. The number 2 job for growth is wind turbine service technician.
That was nice. You get to hang from a rope.
Yes, right. And we've talked about many times on this show.
What's that lady's name?
Jessica Kilroy, Kilroy. You can go to YouTube.
Here.
Yeah, you can go to YouTube and look up videos of Jessica Kilroy. She refers to herself as a blonde chick. So, you know, that's not disparaging, but she is a wind turbine technician and a musician. So you'll find her in both roles. But the thing that this reminds me of a little bit is when I was in college, I went to school near Murray Hill, New Jersey. I was in Madison, New Jersey, and there were local people there who were into computers who also were tied in one way or another to Bell Labs.
Yeah, Bell Labs was in Murray Hill, right.
Right, and they had a prediction, and we were talking about the growth of the computer industry, which at that point was just really about to start. You know, nobody had a personal computer yet.
Oh, they were in buildings this size.
Yeah, and one of the guys said, well, you know, in 1947 or whatever the year was, I don't remember exactly, somebody made a prediction that in the United States, the growth of telephone operators was so fast that by a date, and I think it was like 1967 or something like that, 1 out of 5 people in the United States would have to be a telephone operator.
It didn't happen.
Well, I said, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And he said, think about this for a minute.
Yeah.
In 1947, you pick up the phone and you hear click, number please.
Absolutely, sure.
Okay, in 1967, you dial your phone yourself.
Yeah.
You are the phone operator. That's what it was.
There you go.
There you go. So these things, yeah, maybe it is 105% per year. I don't know.
Well, just for what it's worth, coal mining industry employment is projected to decrease by 7% from 2016 to 2026.
By whom? Decrease by 7% in 10 years? No way.
More than that.
Yeah.
No occupation in the coal mining industry is projected to increase.
Well, my guess is that the Bureau of Labor Statistics is getting its information from the Energy Information Administration, which has got coal projected as being kind of, their projections are so radically wrong on a year-to-year basis that it's like a comedy act. It really is. People who are into renewable energy just, okay, should we go on?
Yeah, let's take a look at it.
We have an item here from the Hartford Courant and a lignite burning power plant in Brandenburg in Germany.
Well, lignite is soft coal. It's sort of like halfway between peat and coal, and we don't even use it in this country.
The power plants are built as close to the mines as possible because the stuff is so expensive to ship relative to its ability to.
Well,
to
they use lignite, a lot of lignite in Germany for just that reason. They have a lot of it.
But
they
the
build
power
plants right over the coal mines.
Yeah. And the coal mines are open pit mines a lot of the time, and some of them are twice as big as the island of Manhattan. I mean, these are just deserts that are created.
Let's go back and look at this. Just want to emphasize, that's not pollution you're looking at. That's cooling towers, so you're seeing steam.
That's steam, but the cooling towers, the steam from the cooling towers is obscuring pollution that's behind it.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, and
right behind them is about 5 big, tall stacks, and there's bad stuff coming out of the stacks.
Yeah, my guess is that if you look at the center of those cooling towers, the one in the middle, which is just to the right of the center of the picture, the dark stuff behind it that you see coming up that you can't see the source of. My bet is that is coming from a smokestack.
That could be pollution. Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, what do you got here for a?
Germany to close all 84 of its coal-fired power plants will rely primarily on renewable energy. This is big.
Oh, they can't do this. You can't have a grid that's more than 5% renewable energy. Okay, Germany is the world's biggest consumer of coal, one of the world's biggest consumers of coal, will shut down all 84 of its coal-fired power plants over the next 19 years to meet international requirements in the fight against climate change, a government commission has said.
There were some pictures there. It was interesting because the students were protesting, demonstrating, and one of them's holding up a sign, and it said, coal, K-O-H-L-E, stop it. I don't have to understand German to know what that means. Well, coal plants account presently for 40% of Germany's electricity. So this is a big change in Germany.
They've been shutting down their nuclear plants because of Fukushima Daiichi and the meltdowns there, and they have been kind of lax about shutting down their coal plants in the process, but what has happened is
they're being forced to do it.
They are putting more and more renewable energy online, and they're going to have their nuclear plants all shut down. I forget how long it is, but it's like 3 years.
Well, the article says that they're counting on renewable energy to provide 3/4 of the country's power by 2040.
Yeah.
Now, that certainly seems doable.
I would think, unless you're going to subscribe to the idea that the limit is 5%. Okay, we have an item from the New York Daily News.
A good one here.
A burning question. What's the burning question, Tom?
Climate denialism is almost dead. So what do we do now? And that almost is in parentheses.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, almost except in the White House.
Yeah.
And some offices of Congress. A sea change is underway in the politics of climate change. It turns out that in global warming, as in grief, denial is just a phase. It is a destructive phase, to be sure, but one now coming to an end, and a president in denial does not alter that.
Well, the takeaway here is common sense. The political landscape is really rapidly shifting. We're no longer debating the science. Americans not only accept it overwhelmingly, that climate change is real, they want the United States to act.
Yes.
So the people are behind this.
Yeah. Well, you know, we have to act, and the evidence is very clear. You know, I keep bringing up the idea of Lyme disease because people who are local here understand that Lyme disease is a problem.
There wasn't any Lyme disease 20 years ago in Vermont. If there was, you got it somewhere else.
When I was, you know, I have spent much of my life very close to Brattleboro.
Yeah, just the other side of the river.
Starting from when I was a little kid. And when I was a kid, there were no ticks.
Yeah.
No ticks, no Lyme disease. When my children were children, the same age, you know, 8, 9, 10 years old, that's about the time that the first ticks appeared. When my daughter was just about 10 years old, which was about 1982. And when those ticks appeared, they were dog ticks at first. We didn't have deer ticks.
Yeah.
And the first instances of Lyme disease in Vermont started to appear in about 1995, 1996. Now it's a problem. A couple thousand people a year get it that are diagnosed, and there are health officials who say
my sister got it.
Yeah, there are health officials who say that
Connecticut.
90% of the people with it are not diagnosed. So.
And she got it in a garden.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was a kid, who heard of ticks?
Who heard of ticks? Well, I knew that there were ticks in Pennsylvania. But, you know, it's... okay, we're up to Monday, January 28th.
And we got a picture coming
And we
up
have
here,
a picture of a solar power plant in Pakistan.
In Pakistan.
Which looks like
Come on.
op art.
Here it is.
There you go.
Yeah, that's... Whoop, God.
It looks like one of those... I forget the names of the artists who used to do patterns. You know, but
I can't relate to it, but that's a very interesting picture.
it is an interesting picture. So
How Pakistan should meet clean energy challenges.
Both wind and solar technologies produce electricity in ways that are intermittent, with the former having a capacity factor of about 30% and the latter about 20%.
Isn't this what we were talking about earlier?
Yeah. Through installing wind-solar hybrid plants, however, the cumulative capacity factor can be increased to 50%. Now, what that tells you is when the sun doesn't always shine, the wind doesn't always blow, but
they don't go down and up together.
Yeah, they go up. When one goes down, the other comes up.
Usually it's true. I mean, you get more wind at night.
Yeah.
You get more solar in the daytime.
And I'll point out that 50%, a 50% capacity factor, and by the way, offshore wind power plants are typically at 50% or even higher. 50% is not very far from the capacity factor of coal. Coal plants are not going all the time. They very often come down. And, you know,
we just found that out in Australia, didn't we?
Yeah. And in the United States, nuclear power is about 92%, but in the rest of the world, nuclear power plants run about 80 to 83% of the time. So
almost doesn't make sense.
It almost doesn't make sense, yeah. Okay, should we go on? Or do you have more?
I'm just trying to, I have some notes, but I'm going to skip them.
Oh, okay.
The next one coming up is China's end 2018 renewable power generation capacity is up 12% from 2017.
Yeah, and the numbers that are in this article I find honestly a little bit scary.
Why is that?
Well, I'll explain it. This is from ET Energy World, which is Environmental Times, not environmental, Economic Times Energy World.
ET Energy World,
yeah. China's total renewable power generation capacity climbed to 728 gigawatts in 2018, up 12% from the end of 2017, the country's energy administration said. China connected 20.59 gigawatts of wind power capacity and 44.3 gigawatts of solar capacity to its grid last year. Now here's the thing, 728 gigawatts? I looked it up. That's just about 3 times as much as we've got in the United States.
Is it really?
Yeah, and that is why I find it a little bit scary. This is the equivalent of maybe 200 large nuclear power plants. This is a lot.
That's a lot of electricity.
A lot of electricity. Okay, why is China doing that? Well, it's got a bunch of good reasons to do it. One of it's because it's got to tackle this pollution problem, which is just horrible.
It's bad.
But
well,
another
we've seen
one,
pictures of
right? Another
pollution
one
in Peking and
yeah. They want to be the ones who supply the world with solar panels and maybe even wind turbines. They're behind on the wind turbines, but they're way ahead on the solar panels.
They're doing a good job with
batteries.
Solar.
They want to be the world supplier of batteries, and they're pretty
doing a
close
good job
to
there
that.
too.
Despite Tesla, they want to be the world supplier of automobiles.
And they're doing a good job there. Electric automobiles.
Electric automobiles. They make about half of them.
Yep.
They want to be the supplier of electric buses.
Yep. They make almost all of that.
Almost all of them. And that's a $50 billion a year industry that we've barely got our toe in the water on that one. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking,
that's a command economy and we have free enterprise.
well, you know,
somebody's got to do some planning.
Somebody's got to do some planning. Here I am. I voted for Richard Nixon twice. I voted for Gerald Ford. I voted for Ronald Reagan twice. I voted for for George Bush twice. I voted for Bob Dole. I voted for George W. Bush. Okay, you got a pattern here? Maybe am I a conservative? And I'm looking at this and I'm saying the free market economy has failed utterly.
Unfortunate.
And the reason is because...
Well, it's not free.
It's not free.
Yeah.
It is dominated by whoever is in command.
Exactly.
And whoever is in command doesn't want to give up that position.
Exactly.
So, you know, we are being held in the 20th century by people who are stuck in the 20th century, and they're trying to make America great again compared to what it was in the 20th century. And nobody is buying it except a pseudo-conservatives in the United States.
Well, if you want to go back to that article and find out more, don't, because we've read the whole article. It's probably the smallest article I think I've ever seen.
Well, yeah, we get very small articles
once in a while
from Renews too. Anyway, we're up to an article from news.com.au.
Well, this is a good article.
Okay.
A worrying new report has revealed the 3 biggest threats to the global population.
And what do you suppose they are? Obesity, malnutrition, and climate change are the 3 biggest threats to populations globally, a report by the Lancet Commission on Obesity said. Now, this is interesting because the Lancet, as you might know, is one of the most important medical journals in the world. And that's exactly what it is. Yeah, and they have a commission on obesity, and the obesity thing has said obesity is a type of malnutrition. So
well, you can be fat and undernourished at the same time.
Absolutely, but malnutrition means badly nourished.
Yeah.
And you can be fat and fully nourished, but badly nourished by having...
That's, I think, what I just said.
Yeah. Anyway, and climate change are the 3 biggest threats to populations globally. A report in the Lancet Commission on Obesity said funding and strategies targeting food policy and production are urgently needed. We're back to, is there something wrong with a free market here?
Well, there's an interesting video in this one. It's a short one, not much more than a minute, featuring David Attenborough.
Yeah.
And he's basically saying disastrous consequences if we don't do something now.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we're up to Tuesday, January 29th.
We certainly are, and we got another
coal-burning power plant.
Here.
There it is.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I
don't know where that one is.
I think it's actually in Ireland, but I'm not 100% sure.
It's a big plant.
It's a big plant.
There's 5 cooling towers, 3 smokestacks.
Yep.
And a whole bunch of coal burning equipment,
yep.
handling equipment.
More cooling towers on the other side of it. I think there's a total of 8 anyway, maybe 9.
Wow.
Anyway.
Virginia committee approves bill halting construction of fossil fuel power plants after 2020.
It's
interesting.
It is. The House Commerce and Labor Committee approved a bill to halt construction of power plants that burn fossil fuels and the fuel pipelines after 2020. The bill requires a plan for switching to 100% renewable electricity by 2036. And you know, I read an article a couple of weeks ago which said we could address climate change worldwide if we had a worldwide policy that says no new fossil fuel burning power plants. And we retired the ones that we've got as soon as they hit their
well, basically, that's what Virginia is saying.
That's what Virginia is saying.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, it hasn't passed the full House yet.
Well, we'll see where it goes, but I think this is eventually where we're going to go as a country.
Well, it's heading in that direction.
Yeah.
If they don't do it this time, they're going to do it next time.
Yes. And the longer they put this stuff off, the more likely it is that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is going to be president of the United States, because there's going to be a reaction.
Well, she's a pretty bright lady. She's pretty progressive. She's very pushy.
Very pushy.
She's, you're going to be hearing from her a lot.
You're going to be hearing from her. Okay. Should we go on?
Yeah, we got another one coming up. Corporate clean power purchases soar.
This is from Renews. Corporate clean energy purchases hit record levels last year, more than doubling to over 13 gigawatts, according to research from Bloomberg NEF. That is New Energy Finance. BNEF said a total of 13.4 gigawatts of corporate power purchase agreements were signed last year, a figure that is up from 6.2 in 2017. So this is an increase of more than 100% in 1 year.
This is growing. This activity is growing.
Yeah, and that's, by the way, worldwide, but most of it is in the United States. Okay, our next item is from etenergyworld.com again.
And we got another picture.
We have a picture here.
Yeah, let's see if
Some of these pictures, I have no idea where they come from. I pick them up because they're with the article.
This did not identify where it came from.
No.
But it's a fairly large installation out there, probably the North Sea.
Probably, yeah.
Renewables overtake coal in key European markets.
This was interesting. Coal-based power generation was overtaken by wind and solar for the first time in 5 key European markets last year, according to research by Wood Mackenzie Power and Renewables. The 5 markets are Germany, France, Italy, Iberia, which is Spain plus Portugal, and the UK. Those are big markets. Germany, France, Italy, Iberia, and the UK.
It's the bulk of Europe right now.
Well, Western Europe.
Yeah, Western
Europe. I don't know.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know how much.
Doesn't include Russia.
Doesn't include Russia. Yeah. Doesn't include Poland, which is, they've got
right on the border there.
But they use a lot of coal in Poland.
Yeah, they do. Well, they have coal.
They have coal. So. That's right. Is there more on this, or?
Nothing that we haven't mentioned already.
Okay.
It's just that 2018, this combination exceeded that of coal.
Right, and it's going to continue growing. Okay, and by the way, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission came up with its figures for plants that are expected to be put online in the United States in the next few years.
Yeah.
The big additions in 2018 were natural gas, which surprised me. I didn't see that coming.
Well, it's still cheap.
Yeah. However, they don't base their projections on the projected expenses of natural gas, but the natural gas projected from now. This is units that they have been told that the developers expect to put online are less over the next couple of years than solar. They're about 40% of what is expected in wind power, and when you put on all the stuff combined, you wind up having natural gas being really not all that important.
Well,
declining
natural gas is still cheap, but they're not finding new sources of natural gas like they want to. I mean, they're looking, but they're just not finding it.
Yeah. Okay, we're up to Wednesday, January 30th, which happens to have been yesterday. It's the last day of the week.
And time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah. we have an item here from Ars Technica.
Major utility implicated in more than a dozen wildfires files for bankruptcy. And we've touched base on this.
We have, and this is something that's been expected for a long time. And by the way, the press that's funded by the Heritage Foundation and the Koch brothers has made this into be a failure for renewable energy.
Have they really?
Yeah, they have.
Okay.
Okay, California utility Pacific Gas and Electricity, which is also called PG&E, has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. It faces billions of dollars in potential damages and fines stemming from liability in 2017 and 2018 wildfires. PG&E has secured $5.5 billion for operations while it restructures. You know, the thing
what's
that's
going on here is the utilities are responsible for ensuring that trees and vegetation are cut back far enough from equipment.
Yes.
Okay, and it isn't happening, hasn't been happening, because, oh, well, you know, we could do that next week. And investigations have pointed to sparks from PG&E's transmission equipment as the causes of more than a dozen fires over the last 2 years.
But you know, Tom, the real cause of those fires is climate change. If that area had, you know,
yes.
I had a funny thing happen. I was driving home one day when I was living in New Hampshire, and I was on a dirt road, and I saw sparks in the trees up above me.
Oh boy!
And I looked up, and what had happened? You know how birch trees, when they die, they rot so that basically they're held up by their bark.
Yeah.
They're just punk.
Yeah.
Well, a birch tree had died, and it had rotted,
fell on
and
some
it had
wires.
just fallen over maybe a couple of feet to touch a wire.
That's 2 wires.
And the wires were sparking.
Yeah.
So I went home and I called the utility, and I said, I just wanted to tell you that a birch tree is hitting the power cables, and they're sparking. And the woman heard the birch tree, the power cables, but not the sparking, I guess. But she said, is there an outage? And I said, not that I know of. And she said, well, we don't come unless there's an outage.
Yeah.
And I said, you don't understand. Sparks are flying. And when she heard that, I made it very clear, and she heard it. She said, we'll get somebody out there to look at it. But they just don't have the money to go and answer every call where somebody says you've got a branch on a tree, or somebody threw some tennis shoes up and they're hanging on a wire, or something like that. You know. So
well, the network, the grid, has been built to take care of what was in effect up until really very recently.
Yeah.
Very few large generating stations that were pumping it into the grid, and the grid was getting it all around to the people.
Mm-hmm.
Now with renewables, we got the possibility of renewable energy being distributed.
yes.
Some of it's over here, some of it's over there, and the grid isn't ready for that. And it's happening right here in Vermont. They want to build a wind farm up in the Northeast Kingdom, and there's no way to connect it to the grid.
Yeah. Okay, we
got 7 minutes left.
We have 7 minutes
We
left.
got about 2 things to talk about.
We do. We have an item from
We got
NBC
a
News.
nice picture coming up here.
Here's a nice picture. This is a very important.
Well, this is what's going on
scientific-
right now.
Yeah.
This is what's going on right now. Extreme cold gripping Midwest. Well, it's also gripping the East now.
Yeah.
Does not debunk global warming, experts say.
President Trump may believe that a cold snap proves that climate change is not happening, but climate authorities, including those inside his own government, said the record-setting cold does nothing to contradict the consensus on climate change. And you know, as I read a couple of articles that had dealt with this, and one of them made a point, which was that there was a heat wave, and I don't even know when it was, but it was sometime in the past, in Morocco. Okay? The hot air from that heat wave traveled north and eventually wound up at the North Pole.
Oh boy.
Which broke up the polar vortex, which is a standard thing that happens.
The polar vortex is
always there. It broke up the polar vortex, which meant that a part of that vortex would head south.
Yep.
And that part of the vortex just happened to go straight into the American Midwest. So that's where this came from.
And that's what's happening now.
But the point is...
Last year it happened in France.
Yes. The point is, why are we having cold weather? Because of a heat wave in Morocco.
Yeah.
Why was there a heat wave in Morocco? Well, there's heat waves in Morocco, but it was exacerbated by climate change. So if you want to draw a connection between global warming and cold air in the Midwest, you can draw it, and it's probably a valid thing to do.
Well, one of the connections is that the melting sea ice
Yes.
slows down the jet stream.
Yes.
And its jet stream slowing down affects the polar vortex.
This is, you know, when this thing went out, I got an email from Kurt Dimes.
Yeah.
Who's, you know, for anybody who doesn't know, he's a local person in Brattleboro who occasionally expresses his opinion.
He's an activist.
He sort of.
Yeah.
And he sent me an email that said we shouldn't call it climate change anymore. We should call it climate chaos.
Climate chaos. Huh?
Yeah, that's
interesting
Kurt Dimes' name. And I think he's right. We should be calling it climate chaos.
Yeah.
Because that's what we've got. This isn't local warming in the Midwest and now hitting us here in the East. This is climate chaos. And it was projected by the people who made projections about global warming years ago, that we would have more extreme weather. And more extreme means hotter hot, but it also means colder cold. And of course, the colder cold is not happening everywhere. It's not happening in Brattleboro. I mean, last night it was 2 below zero or something like that.
I couldn't start my car this morning even though I plugged it in.
I can remember nights when it was 30 below. But
30 below,
I
wow.
haven't seen them lately. Well, I should amend that. It was 30 below at my house. But my house was on a mountaintop.
In New Hampshire.
In New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So should we...
yeah, might as well hit. This is the last one anyhow.
This is the last one, and it comes from Clean Technica.
Renewables shine, fossil fuels suffer as Australia swelters in record heat.
This, I thought, was a really interesting article. And again, the publications that are leaning right tried to make it into something else. In Australia's most recent heat wave, which was a bad heat wave.
Well, in Adelaide, it hit 115 degrees.
Yeah.
That's kind of warm.
That's kind of warm. Fossil fuel powered generating plants failed to deliver. What did they do? 2 big coal burning power plants both simply went offline, more or less simultaneously. And this is in a country that has a population of about 35 million.
Well, they turn on all those air conditioners and something's got to give.
Well, and also these big thermal power plants can't cool themselves in hot weather.
Well, that's exactly what's happening.
Bang.
That's exactly what's happening.
In Victoria, 1.8 gigawatts of capacity was lost when 2 fossil fuel generating stations went offline in the record heat. That's the equivalent of 3 nuclear plants the size of Vermont Yankee.
The power transformers were overheating and they had to shut them down.
Okay. Solar and wind and battery power kept losses to a minimum. What was the minimum? They lost power for 2 hours in this record heat.
That's not bad.
Well, it's
bad if you're there.
It's bad if you're there. But it's a whole lot better than being without power for days.
Oh, sure.
And because that would have caused a lot of people to die. Among other things. I mean, they've got a situation where flying foxes are dying. They're just falling out of the sky. There was an article about, I don't know, 60 horses that just died. The wild horses near.
It's just too hot.
It's too hot. They went to a water hole. There was no water. They didn't know where to go. Mm-hmm. They died. Mm-hmm. This was near Alice Springs. And you know Alice Springs?
It's right in the center of Australia.
Smack dab in the middle, yeah. And it's in the middle of a huge desert. So basically, what happened here was the right wing publication said, well, it was the renewable energy that failed. They didn't give us those 2 hours of heat. Well, no, it wasn't the renewable energy that failed. It was the renewable energy that bailed everybody out.
So what do you call it when the solar is overloaded?
Tell us, Tom.
A nice day.
A nice day. And with that, perhaps we should go on to this. Let's put that up.
I've seen that before.
You've seen that before.
Yeah, let's get it up.
Let's put
so
it up.
Everybody can see it.
Have a perfectly lovely week. Why don't you put us both up, Tom? We can wave goodbye. Adios.
Adios.